What is up, everybody? It is the Sound Alchemist, and today we're back to look at the new Psychic Awakening stuff for 3 factions today. We've got the Grey Knights, the Dark Angels, and the Thousand Suns to look into. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if you've been kind of keeping track as to what's going on with the Psychic Awakening, it seems that some factions are getting new models and updated to their rules. Others are getting full-on supplements, Space Marines, cough cough, Space Marines. And with this, little tidbit of faction focuses for the Space Marines and the Chaos, I think that actually Chaos won this one over. The Thousand Suns have really cool stuff added to their rule set, and let's go over it. All the information and more so can be found on the Warhammer community page, so I'm going to link the article down in the description so you guys can get the whole story right over there. But for now, let's begin with an army that I used to play, so I'm pretty well versed in the Grey Knights, so let's see what exactly they got and what I think of it. If you don't know who the Grey Knights are, they are essentially an elite force of Space Marines that used to be a secret, now not so much, but they were there to be the hammer of the Emperor, to strike down any descendants of the warp, more so Chaos Demons. So to specify this, every single member of the Grey Knight chapter is an expert psyker, and with the Psychic Awakening they had a new rule called the Masters of the Warp, which is basically doctrines. They say it's different to it, but when it boils down, that's what it is. They're doctrines for the Grey Knights. However, they have 4 tides to choose from, and these can be the Tide of Fury, the Tide of Convergence, the Tide of Shadows, and the Tide of Escalation. Now these are pretty cool because it basically shows that the Grey Knights are able to utilize the powers of the Warp to their strengths. So for example, the Tide of Fury, it basically makes a Nemesis weapon reroll a wound of 1, which is really good because as far as I remember, everything except a hammer is a Nemesis weapon, so they're going to be doing more damage. On top of this, the Tide of Convergence adds 1 to the strength and damage characteristics of Psi weaponry. So that's like the Psi cannon, and I believe it's like the Psi... It's like a Psi Gatling cannon, something like that. So basically, if you want to bring in DACA, you use the Convergence. If you're going to go in close combat, you use the Tide of Fury. The one I think is going to be more useful is the Tide of Escalation, because if you cast out Smite, it inflicts an additional mortal wound, and knowing the meta, or at least what it used to be, Tide spam, or Smite spam, is a thing. So if you're able to do an additional mortal wound, yeah, definitely try and go with this almost every single time. However, the Tide of Shadows, which is the last tide, is pretty interesting because it says that if you're not entirely within a terrain feature, the enemy firing at you still gets to subtract 1 from their hit roll. So that's a little bit like Raven Guard-y-ish type of tactics. Still, Tide of Escalation seems to be the move with this one. There are a few more like stratagems and like weapons and stuff that the Grey Knights get. However, they're kind of like meh. I think the best thing would be the Recitation of Projection, or Recitation of Projection. Basically, it's a litany that you pick a Grey Knight unit within 6 of a model, and then you add 6 inches to the range of the bolt weapons and psi weapons of anybody in that unit. So I believe psi weapons, they're going to be taken like 2 per squad, so it's not just those benefiting from this. Bolters, storm bolters also get the benefit. However, this one works pretty good with that tide that gives you an extra oomph to your psi weapons. So maybe if you're going for a shooty Grey Knight army, that's what you want to focus on. However, Grey Knights are elite. You're not going to have a lot of models on the table to begin with, so focusing on shooting is probably not the best thing to do in certain situations, but I'm sure you can make it work. Maybe you want to like soften them up before you charge, but at the same time you don't want to kill too many models because you want to make sure you're able to hit your charge and get them in close combat. So, out of these three factions that I'm going to be talking about today, I'd say I'm least looking forward to what the Grey Knights have in store for the psychic abilities and whatnot. But anyway, let's move on to the Dark Angels. Now, let me just say, before we even dive into the new rules for the Psychic Awakening for the Dark Angels, that they, hands down, have the awesomest piece of artwork that I can remember in current times for anything 40k related. I mean, just look at this masterpiece. It's really awesome. I really like this artwork. But anyway, the Dark Angels, they don't really have that many psychic things to them. However, with this new Primaris Inner Circle dude, he's like anti-psyker to the max. First and foremost, he has this sword that is literally made to take down psychers. So first of all, it's a melee weapon, obviously, because it's a sword. It gives him a +2 to strength, a -4 to the AP, and D3 damage. But like I said, if you're attacking a psyker, you get to re-roll your wound as well as the damage. So, like I said, this guy should have been a Grey Knight. Because it's like, oh, I'm fighting 1,000 Suns, I gotcha. And on top of that, he has the Spirit Shield Helm, which is basically his helmet that creates a 6-inch bubble that if they lose a wound, not just a wound, but a mortal wound, you roll a d6 and you add 1. If it's a 5-up, that wound is not lost. Like, come on, dude. It's perfect. Like I said, if you're going up against 1,000 Suns and they try to smite you, chances are you're gonna save yourself from getting smote. I think that's the past tense, because smitten doesn't make sense. But anyway, you survive the smite, you get into combat, you survive, and then you get to hit with your sword that's anti-psyker. Make this guy a Grey Knight. This is what the Grey Knights should have gotten. But anyway, I digress, because as awesome as this anti-psyker stuff is, the model's pretty cool looking, I guess, for a Primaris. It wouldn't feel right if we didn't get anything for the Ravenwing or the Deathwing for the Dark Angels, so they gave us a little bit of a bone here with the Key of Akrabel. Basically, it's a key that unlocks a hidden sanctum deep within the rock. As you go deeper and deeper into the rock, you can probably smell what he's cooking. But anyway, as you go into this sanctum, you get some pretty mysterious, awesome war gear, and specifically for the Deathwing. So basically what this means is that you get to add 1 to the strength and attack characteristics of a model with this relic. So if you're really trying to make like a smash captain and you want to do just a little bit more damage, the Key of Akrabel is your go-to. I don't know how well it is competitive speaking, but like I said, they threw us a bone. There's probably not much meat on a bone, but it's something. For the Ravenwing though, you get a Outrider detachment, I believe. Well, it's called Outrider. I'll read it to you guys. Basically, at the start of the first round, before the turn even begins, your Warlord and another Ravenwing unit from your army can move an additional 12 inches. They can advance, but it's an extra 12-inch move, and the whole 9-inch rule thing applies. It's kind of like Scout for your Warlord and another Ravenwing unit. It's really cool, especially if you got them on bikes, or if you got bikes and you got flyers and you can get in closer to the enemy. However, I don't know how I feel about this. Me personally, I always like playing the more like elite armies, if that makes sense. So I'd probably go with the Deathwing more so than the Ravenwing, but if that's your cup of tea, that's pretty cool. Now the 1,000 Suns, they got something intense, crazy even, blasphemous, bonkers. They have a 1 command point stratagem called Infernal Fusillade. Now, the little lore behind this is that little can withstand fusillades unleashed by the impeccable phalanxes of the 1,000 Suns. So as we all know, the 1,000 Suns have these Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, that are no longer there in body and soul. They're essentially Alphonse Elric. They are just their armor with their souls attached to it. Basically what this stratagem does is that you pick a unit of the Rubric Marines, Or even worse, you can pick a Scarab Occult Terminator unit. Then, when they shoot in the shooting phase, that unit can basically shoot twice with their rapid fire weapons if they didn't move. So that's a key point, if they didn't move. However, if you position yourself strategically, this is gonna be a world of hurt because their weapons are AP2 bolters. So like, just imagine being able to shoot with an entire squad of AP2 bolters twice. That's gonna hurt. That is definitely gonna hurt. And for only one command point, that's insane. Now this is really cool because I believe there is a stratagem where you can take a unit of, I believe it's the, I don't think it's Terminators, I'm pretty sure it's just like Rubric Marines, and you can put them anywhere within 9 inches of the enemy. So essentially they get a deep strike, and then you can use this stratagem to shoot twice. So yeah, they're going to be doing a lot of work, which is cool, because usually when you see Zeech lists, you have a shit ton of Zangors. They're cool and all, but they're not Chaos Space Marines. So if you want to play Zeech, they just got a lot more competitive. Who knows how this is going to like actually work as you're playing a game, because obviously things don't always work according to plan. Now there's a few more things that were revealed for the Thousand Sons, such as like the cults and some psychic powers and whatnot, but to me that pales in comparison to that freaking stratagem that lets you shoot twice. It's going to be crazy. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for today. Let me know what you guys think about these Psychic Awakening details for these 3 armies. Next up is definitely going to be the Tau, which I can't wait to see what they actually get. I'm really hyped. Obviously, we saw that there's a new Commander Shadowsun model, but as for the rules and see what Farsight gets too, because I really hope they include him in all the fun. But anyway, let me know what you think about these 3 guys with the Psychic Awakening. And in general, how do you feel about Psychic Awakening? I like it, but I feel like it's just more books to buy and more things that are scattered throughout many books, and just the whole rule keeping is getting out of hand. Because like, if you play Chaos, like there are tons. You have the Index, the Codex. There are some models that came out after the Codex that you need to buy the model because that's where they have the rules. You have the box set. There's a lot. There is a lot. But anyway, it's pretty cool to see a little upgrade to your army. But like I said, that's all I have for today. So I'll talk to you guys in the comments. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you guys next time.